Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. I bet you're the same kind of person that I am. When you see a shopping cart sitting in the parking lot, you return it to the cartwell. Not to the little corrals. You take it all the way back to the cartwell at the entrance of the store. So here's a question of ethics for you. You ever bring the cart back to the cartwell and see that most of the carts are out in the corrals and there's only a few carts 50 yards away at the back? Do you push the cart all the way down to the end to make the employee's life easier? Or do you leave the cart at the edge of the cartwell to make the next customer's life easier? By the amount of thought I placed on the situation at that point, I get frustrated that being nice is so damn difficult that I just fling the cart down the cartwell, not caring where it ends up, like, F you, Grandma. Just kidding. Obviously, I build a fort out of the shopping cart to the cartwell until they tell me to leave. Why do you go to grocery stores, weirdo? To buy food? Chump. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I am your host, the Madman. I want to sorry about missing a week. I had to get used to a new schedule. I got used to that new schedule, and so hopefully we can keep bringing you the same content at the same time. And so I just had to catch a stride before I get back into doing the show. The videos and stuff that'll come out like after, they may be slower to get updated throughout the weekend and so forth. So just if you're waiting for clips or something to come out, this might be before the weekend when you'll see those. Just to let you know. I want to remind you that you can follow me on Twitter at DNALETSAW on Twitter. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards if you like T.S. Eliot. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, where I did a video show last night. And at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. You can follow me there. I also have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron. I would appreciate that very, very much. You can also send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio. All one word. I would appreciate that. I also have books available for digital download on Amazon.com. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's, or just check the links in the description below. Seriously, though, about shopping carts, I do have kind of an ethical question, because something happened to me recently at the grocery store when I was shopping. And I was coming out of the store, and I just had a couple bags in my cart. So I see this old man walking up, and I was like, oh, sweet old man. So I pulled the bags out of my cart, and I said, here, you need a cart, old man? And he's like, oh, thank you, Sonny. And then he takes the cart, and he's, heading on to the store, and I felt like I'm a good person. I was nice to that old man, but I turned right around, and there was this sweet old lady with a walker, and she probably just watched that whole interaction. And then all of a sudden, now I'm cartless, and I gave it to a more ambulatory sweet old person. So sometimes, like, being a nice guy is a real pain in the ass. Because
they hired me on the spot as a cart return boy.
the manager came out and offered me a job. It's like, you put in more effort than half my employees. And you're just a customer. And that's kind of the point. Is that a lot of these kids these days, they don't know how to work. I think I was listening to Gavin McInnes. He was talking about, like, you hired some of these young kids these days or something like that. And he goes, I want you to handle X and X, Y, Z. And then they'll come back like 10 minutes later and say, well, I Googled it, and I'm not really sure what you want me to do. It's like they have absolutely no initiative, and no, like, critical thinking skills. It's sad. Anyway, so it's just I just wanted to tell that story about those old people. I just felt so bad, because I was like, the old lady's on a walker. Said, here, ma'am, let me go get you a cart, because I'm a dick. Gave it to a more ambulatory, older person. So, nice guys finish last, I suppose. Is that like I think that's a sex thing. I don't know what it means. Anyway, I got one more thing. I got a MyPillow recently. It was a gift. It was my choice to get it, but
you got really Italian there for a second. I got on my pillow.
I got a MyPillow last week. It was a gift. Not my choice to get it, but I've tried it out. I've used it. I don't see what all the fuss is about. You know? There's people who are like really mad at that guy for some reason, and it's like, you know, it's just a damn pillow. I don't see what the fuss is about. Anyway, let's get on with my show. Wet my whistle here. I had a dream that I was an actor. I was on the set, and the director was breaking down my role in the next scene. He's saying, all right, you're really into this guy, and all you want to do is kiss him. And you have this awkward conversation. You know your lines, right? And I say, I'm a professional, so of course I did. And then he cuts me off and says, so you have this awkward conversation, and you just impulsively kiss him. So now I'm starting to get freaked out, and I start saying, wait, I got to be gay? No one said anything about being gay. And the director is shocked, saying, what's the problem? You've played murderers before. What's the difference? And I'm starting to get mad. And so I scream at him. The difference is that I didn't actually murder those people. So my agent comes over as he overhears all my protestations. He goes, what's the problem here? He's chomping a big cigar in my dream. What's the problem here? And the director turns to him. Huh?
Your agent is J. Jonah Jameson?
My agent is J. Jonah Jameson in the dream. So he's chomping it. Going, what's the problem here? And the director turns to him, exasperated. He goes, he won't play gay. He won't play gay? So he grabs my elbow and leads me away. Starts speaking low. You know, it's like, look, kid, he said quietly, you've studied acting. You're a professional. Acting is pretending to be someone else. And I say back to him, I know, but I would never cheat on my wife, ScarJo, who I am married to in my dream. Look here, kid. It's a guy, so it's not cheating. And I argue back, I wouldn't even kiss woman actors. I would never cheat on my beloved ScarJo. Now my agent's getting mad. Yeah, you're crazy, kid. You've been married to Jennifer Connelly since The Rocketeer, and you know it. Now listen, and listen good, madman. With the money we're making on this film, you will go in there and suck Ed Furlong's cock if that's what the director wants you to do. Get it? And I'm furious. And I storm off set like a prima donna. Never, I'll never be gay. And my agent's screaming after me, you don't have what it takes to make it in this town, kid. You just don't got what it takes. Next thing I know, I'm not getting any callbacks. And when I do, the people are all making fun of me, saying stuff like, you do know what acting is, right? And then finally, I saw John Malkovich on Joe Rogan. And John Malkovich mentions me on the show, on Joe Rogan's show, and he goes, and John Malkovich says, well, Madman, he simply can't act gay, and that's basics. That's acting 101 stuff. And I remember thinking, my career's over. Then I woke up. I don't know what it says about me. I think it says a lot about my opinions of Hollywood. But anyway, long story short is I'm glad I didn't get into performance art. Aren't you glad when people share their crazy-ass dreams with you? I remember it was like one of those very first seasons of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Dee's telling Dennis about a dream, and he's like, I don't want to hear about your dreams. You know, if I'm not in them and no one's, it's like a stack of pictures. If I'm not in them and no one's having sex, why do I want to look at this? Because you're a narcissist. That's why, Dennis. Anyway. I watched Death to Smoochy again recently. It's free to watch on YouTube right now. Thanks, YouTube. And if you don't know, DTS, as I call it, it's a wonderful, dark comedy by Danny DeVito, who directs it, and he plays a supporting role. But it stars the late, great Robin Williams and Ed Norton and Catherine Keener and Jon Stewart. So you could tell the studio was very confident about this script from the beginning. But the story is about children's TV entertainers. Williams plays Rainbow Randolph, a corrupt and mean children's entertainer who gets fired for taking a bribe. I don't know why he didn't go to prison. Anyway, the studio needs a squeaky clean new entertainer to replace Randolph's time slot. Enter Sheldon Mopes. Great names on these characters, by the way. He's also known as Sheldon Mopes, also known as Smoochy the Rhino. Ed Norton plays the insufferable soy boy hippie Sheldon Mopes. And like many insufferable soy boy hippies, at his core, he's a good man that tries to do the right thing, even if he is a tad naive. Now, Sheldon is insufferable because of his soy dogs and his orange juice and alfalfa and his anger management halt technique, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Oh, did I mention that? We get a real insight into Sheldon's character when he briefly mentions that he was ordered into an anger management class in college. And it kind of explains the why he lives his life these days. Sometimes I think they could have called this movie American History X2. Anyway, what's really great about this movie is that it's clearly for adults, despite the subject matter being about the business of running children's entertainment. Almost every single character in this movie is cynical, corrupt, and greedy. Rainbow Randolph, homeless now, dedicates his life to destroying the rhino. He hates Sheldon Mopes. And Williams has always played a crazy person well. And this character has a very well-developed sense of humor. So even his weird and insane rants are hilarious. Hello there, little nipple nibbler. The rhino's a Nazi. You know, I mean, it's hilarious. So obviously, the late, great Robin Williams chews the scenery throughout the movie, and it's amazing. There's a scene where Randolph is trying to self-immolate himself in front of a crowd outside of KidNet Studios. As he lights the match, one little girl comes out of the crowd and blows out the match. New Yorkers, right? Anyway. And she says to him, "What are you doing, Rainbow Randolph?" And then Smoochy arrives in a limo, and the crowd turns to mob him, leaving Randolph alone in the streets. And he screams into the sky, "Oh, God, what does it all mean?" I'm right there with you, Randolph. I really am. Anyway, and there's a few other characters that are important, and that's Spinner and his Irish mob family. Spinner ran into Sheldon in his restaurant and recognized Sheldon. Spinner is an ex-boxer who has he's made mostly of CTE, but he has very childlike mentality, and he's friendly. And Spinner being Spinner and Sheldon being Sheldon, they become friends. It's very sweet, even if Spinner's cousin Tommy is quite a vicious person with her Irish mob and all that. Now, I don't want to spoil the plot for you because you really need to see this movie if you have not seen it yet. But the movie has a really great message. Despite all the vile, cynical, and downright evil characters in this film, and you can even see that some of these people can be redeemed in some weird way, or perhaps even see how bad men can be made to do good things. You can see characters who have grown hard and angry at the corruption of children's entertainment. It's a hall of mirrors out there, as Sheldon might say. This movie takes place in our real world. It's a dangerous world where sometimes people get killed. And all of Sheldon's optimism and anger management techniques are not going to be enough to stand and fight against it all. Quote, "Sincerity is an easy disguise in this business, and it's hard to know who's on the level." That's something Catherine Keener's character said in the movie. And she's a producer. She's a producer of the show, Smoochy the Rhino, and one of the characters who redeems herself. This movie is great that way. It's great in every way. Death to Smoochy. 13 of 13 stars. A must-see for every adult who was once a child and believed the world could be a much better place, even as they themselves grew more and more cynical. Also, where did Rainbow Randolph get that many Nazis in New Jersey? How do you like that? Anyway, hear my voice squeak there? That's just Smoochy. Ben Shapiro, I think yesterday, his voice was going out on him, and he squeaked pretty good. I was like, wow, somebody's going to clip that. I haven't seen it yet, though. It's funny. He also, when he says things like anything that starts with a P, it's pretty. It's pretty serious. Real hard on those P's, Ben Shapiro. Anyway. Bamf, Limestone. I want to tell this story because I haven't thought about it in years, and it came up recently. And back when I did my first World Changers is a Christian organization where we went down to like build houses for poor peoples, and different parts of the country. And the first time we went down, I think it was in Georgia. I think we went to Georgia to build houses. And we were staying in this like old, like a school that was out. It was summer, so nobody was in there. So we're staying in the school, and we're hanging out, talking to a bunch of, 13, 14-year-old kids, sitting around talking about superheroes. And we're talking, and it's Georgia. So so it's a bunch of good old boys that aren't really super bright, but, they're a lot of fun nonetheless. And so we're talking about superheroes, and this one guy sitting there, he's talking about, yeah, man, I'll tell you, if I had any superpower, I'd be like Nightcrawler from the X-Men. I'd be like Nightcrawler. I'll tell you what, because you can go anywhere you want. You go anywhere you want, and anyone starts giving you any trouble, no matter where you go, it's just bam, limestone. And when he said that the first time, all of us just bust up laughing. And he has no clue why we're laughing. And he goes, what's funny about that? And then somebody finally says, brimstone. Bamf, brimstone. And he goes, well, what's the difference? It's like, there's a big difference. All right. Limestone's a rock. Brimstone is like molten burning rock. And so, additionally, it smells like farts. So every time Nightcrawler teleports, it smells like farts, Nightcrawler's been in here. Everyone in the X-Mansion is blaming their farts on, Nightcrawler. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so the point is that this guy misunderstood. He had read enough X-Men comics to know that it smelled like brimstone, but it somehow read limestone instead of brimstone every single time. So when he had that conversation with us, it'd be like, man, you could just teleport anywhere. Just be like, bam, limestone. So we thought it was so hilarious that he made this like little tiny mistake that we started it saying every time we'd leave. Anytime we were leaving somewhere, it was like, I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. And they're like, okay, bam, limestone. And everyone would get a big chuckle out of it. Next thing I know is like all the crews, because every night we're having, we go out and work in these crews, but every night we come together and we have devotionals and Bible study and stuff like that. And so people are doing it in these like big meetings. And next thing you know, it's gotten around to all these world changers. Like anytime anybody gets up, it's like people you never even met are getting up and say, bam, limestone, and walking up. And half of them don't even know why it's funny. That's what's really funny. Anyway, just a little juvenile humor that woke me up in the middle of the night. I said, bam, limestone. And I roll over and go back to sleep. That's a good memory. All right, I got one more thing I want to talk about before we get into the news. And it's something I was thinking about because I want to get into maybe bird law, possibly maritime law. And I was thinking, it's like, what would it take to pass the bar exam? Because law is a funny thing, mathematics, you can understand this progression you need to learn in mathematics to understand all of mathematics. And so, but it's all like it's based upon a rule set, and when it comes to law is a study of the rule set, it's understanding like precedents and like how things, it's basically memorization in many ways. And so just out of curiosity, or maybe I was like really drunk and I was like, I need to be a lawyer instead. This career isn't panning out for me. I need to go to law school and see because what's funny is that you don't even necessarily, like in some places, I think in this country, you don't even need to have gone to law school. If you pass the bar exam, you can legally practice law, I think. Am I wrong, EK?
I think it varies state to state.
Yeah, I think it's some states, depending upon the state. Yeah.
In Virginia, I think you just need to pass the baby bar.
Oh, really? Baby bar?
And you can practice.
So on that, about the Virginia bar, because I live in Virginia, I was interested. So I went to find some sample bar exam questions to see what it was like to take a test for the bar exam and see if I had like any kind of talent. Now, what's interesting is like you can get like answers to a lot of these questions in other states, but in Virginia they don't give you answers. It's just the questions. So I want to read one of these questions off the Virginia bar exam and just like discuss what I think should happen here. So this is the question for the Virginia Board of Bar Examiners. Jameson is a retired narcotics officer. He owns an auto repair shop in Abington, Virginia. Recently, when he arrived to open his shop, he found an unattended older model Chevy Malibu in front of his garage. It had a note on the windshield stating that the car had been overheating. The note was signed by Larry, and a key was left in the ignition. Jameson then received a telephone call from an individual who identified himself as Larry. Larry said that the car needed to be repaired, and Larry said that he needed the car repaired and would be by the shop in the early afternoon to pay for the repairs. Larry advised that he had left the only key to the car with Jameson and told Jameson that the trunk was locked and there was no key in the trunk. Larry did not give his last name or telephone number. Jameson put the car onto his lift and determined that the problem was a broken water pump, which he quickly repaired. When he lowered the car to the floor, the trunk lid flew up. Jameson saw 10 bags of white powder packaged in brick-like manner with clear plastic covering in the trunk. Based upon his experience and training as a narcotics officer, Jameson believed that the packages contained cocaine. Jameson immediately called the local police and closed the trunk. Jameson removed the ignition coil to ensure that the vehicle could not be started. When the police officers arrived, Jameson advised them of what he had seen in the trunk and that he had made the car inoperable. The officers determined by the license plate that the Malibu belonged to Larry, a resident of Winchester, Virginia. One of the officers was in plain clothes and waited inside the shop as if he was a customer. 3 other officers waited outside the shop and moved their vehicles so that they could not be seen, and they all waited for Larry to return to pick up the vehicle. Shortly thereafter, a vehicle with Florida license plates pulls up to the garage with a driver and a passenger. The passenger got out of the vehicle and the vehicle left. The passenger identified himself as Larry, the owner of the Malibu. When Larry got into the car to attempt to start it, the police moved in and arrested Larry without a warrant. The police asked Larry for the key to the trunk, and he told them he didn't have one. Without obtaining a search warrant, the police then pried open the trunk and found what appeared to be 10 bricks of cocaine. They photographed the white bricks and secured them as evidence. It was later determined that the bricks did contain cocaine. After opening the trunk, police officers advised Larry that he was under arrest. He was put in handcuffs and placed into the police car. One of the officers then asked him, what did you intend to do with those drugs? Sell them? Larry replied, I spent my life savings to buy those bricks. Larry was transported to the local jail. At that point, he was read his Miranda rights and charged with possession of cocaine with intent to distribute. Larry has made several pre-trial motions. So here's the questions about this little scenario. How should the court rule on Larry's motion to dismiss the charges on the ground of the warrantless arrest violated Larry's rights under the Fourth Amendment? How should the court rule on Larry's motion to suppress the cocaine on the grounds of the warrantless search of the trunk of the car that violated Larry's rights under the Fourth Amendment? How should the court rule on Larry's motion to suppress his response to the officer's question about what he intended to do with the drugs on the ground that it violated his Miranda rights? Explain fully. Yeah, that last one about like the officer's question of what he intended to do the drugs. It was an improper question. What did you intend to do with the drugs? Sell them? That's a leading question. I don't think that should be admissible. Plus, I mean, under the Fifth Amendment, that's self-incrimination. He should have pled the Fifth Amendment right there instead of saying I spent my life savings to buy those bricks. But I mean, once it's said, it's said. Sorry, that's just my opinion. We're talking about dangerous drugs here. I mean, I know I'm not a lawyer. I'm probably getting these answers all wrong. I think that the police didn't see the cocaine that was allegedly in the trunk, so they didn't have any probable cause to search the trunk unless you consider probable cause to be this ex-narcotics officer who said he saw, but that's hearsay, isn't it? That's hearsay. So I think it's interesting because law has always been something that baffled my mind, and this is what these people deal with, judges and stuff like that. They got to read all these old, like all the precedents that have been set in similar cases throughout our legal history, and so they're tough moral questions. It's cocaine. You know, it was tested and found to be cocaine. It should be off the streets. It should be destroyed. I agree with that. But did the cops really have the right to go in there and like, based upon this guy's testimony? I saw drugs in there and then I closed the trunk. If you're an ex-narcotics officer, you probably would have taken one and not said anything. Anyway, I was looking at that earlier this week and I thought, it's like, that's interesting. That's really interesting and hard. It makes my brain hurt just to think about that stuff. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the news worth knowing. If my mouse wants to work. Agua. All right, so Americans are already reacting to Biden's student loan handout plan. So President Biden today announced a student loan handout plan that essentially will use taxpayer money to pay off up to $10,000 of student debt per borrower making under $125K a year. That means Americans will be footing a nearly $300,000 bill, $300 billion bill if Biden goes through with it, this reported plan, plus extends a repayment pause to next year. Jeepers creepers. Nation's federal student debt now tops $1.6 trillion after ballooning for years. More than 43 million Americans have federal student debt, with almost a third owing less than $10,000 and more than half owing less than $20,000, according to the latest federal data. The U.S. federal debt is projected to nearly double in size of the economy by 2051, showing economic growth and raising the risk of fiscal crisis, the Congressional Budget Office said in late July, as Fox Business reported. Many hardworking, pay-by-the-rules Americans have diligently paid off their student loans as a matter of personal responsibility. They believe in taking care of their obligations. For them, it was the right thing to do. And I'm not going to read these people talking about like how they paid off their student loans and these other people who were lackadaisical about it. You know, made the collections company call a few times. Those people get a handout. And you know, I think people knew that this was going to happen. You know, there's no way Biden was going to make all those people who got those useless degrees in the past 10 years who vote for him. All right? Those people are the people who vote for him. They're the people who went and like studied in like dance theory. All right? They wanted to be an actor because every kid wants to be an actor.
Oh, I dance.
Yeah.
No theory involved.
There's no I'm a dancer. There's no theory involved. Okay, whatever. But these are the kind of people we're talking about, you know. They got this useless degree, you know, in the arts. And, you know, the arts is so easy, you know. I'm not even trained in that. I'm trained in systems administration, okay? And I'm better at art than many people, all right? It's easy. You don't need a degree to do art. The point is that, you know, these people don't pay their loans. It's like, it would be nice. I would like to go and buy a brand new car for $10,000 and make you pay for it. You know, it's weird how this one debt that they want to call it forgiveness is like, it's not like you're erasing any zeros. The people still want their money. You know, you're just making the American taxpayer pay for all the useless degrees that these dumbass kids went and got in college. Because college has become like a mandatory thing. Like, they think everyone has to go to college, and that's not true. You know, I know an HVAC guy, all right? I know an HVAC guy who's rolling in the dough, especially come August, you know? In the middle of this heat wave that we're all feeling. The HVAC guy is king. You know, I have a cousin who's an electrician, and he, you know, he dabs his tears with $100 bills, you know? It's a license to print money, having an actual trade skill. But if you measure, if you're like Andy McDowell in Groundhog Day, it's like I studied 19th century French poetry, you know? And that scene where Bill Murray laughs at her, what a waste of time. You know, that's a very honest reaction. It's a very true reaction. 19th century French poetry. Get out of here. How useful is that? Anyway, so we got to pay the bills for all these kids. And everyone knows that Biden wasn't going to like cancel any of that or like make these kids, you know, hold these kids to account for what they owe, you know, for their bills. Not when he wants them to vote for him come November. He's going to keep pushing it down the line for as long as he's in office, trying to get these idiot liberals with useless degrees to vote for him. Anyway, let's talk about my shipmates. Unvaxxed Navy sailors face deplorable living conditions while religious exemptions are pending. U.S. Navy service members who are seeking religious exemptions to the Department of Defense's COVID-19 vaccine mandate have been transferred into deplorable living conditions and in some cases are unable to leave while awaiting termination from the military, according to court documents. First Liberty Institute in November filed a lawsuit on behalf of 35 active duty SEALs and 3 reservists seeking religious exemption to the mandate, as first reported by Fox News Digital. The case has been amended to extend to a class action lawsuit encompassing all Navy service members seeking religious accommodation. In March, the Supreme Court blocked a lower court's order in Texas that would have forced the Navy to stop implementing the vaccine mandate. Now the case is continuing to be litigated in lower courts around the country, and unvaccinated SEALs and other sailors who have not yet been terminated by the U.S. government are stuck in limbo, with many of them forced in less than desirable alternative housing by the military or barred from traveling outside their base. Jeez Louise. I got some pictures here. It's not pretty. In a court filing in June by First Liberty in the Northern District of Texas Fort Worth Division District Court, sailors recounted deplorable conditions on large U.S. vessels where they remain waiting their cases to be adjudicated. One sailor is now part of a class action lawsuit said in a court-filed declaration that they could not leave the area after asking to be terminated from the military due to religious objections to the mandate and were moved to the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft berthing barge, where the conditions are deplorable. Those berthing barges are deplorable as it is. Yeah, they ain't, they're not very nice. Oh boy, the Dwight D. Eisenhower's berthing barge. Okay. Because I could not leave the area, I moved into a berthing barge for the Eisenhower. The conditions on the barge are deplorable, much like the USS George Washington, which is anchored in the same shipyard. There is mold everywhere, and the barge's toilets back up and leak. Water leaks out of the base of the toilet and collects near my rack and out into the hall. On bad days, it goes to the berthings to the other side. The leak seems to be sewage. It smells like sewage, and it looks like it too. See Exhibit C, water I've mopped up from under my rack. It's swabbing, shipmate. Anyway, it's awful. It's awful conditions. There's a sort of worm thriving in the stagnant water in the toilet bowls on the floor. Ugh. Anyway, it sounds disgusting, and the pictures they show are disgusting. Ugh. But, you know, this is what the military does if you do something they don't like. They'll find the worst possible thing for you. It's something I always hated about the military. If you do or say something unpopular, like say you didn't like being in the Navy, say you couldn't wait to get out, and you tell everybody who's junior to you, get out when you can. Get out when you can. This place is nuts. They didn't like people like me. They certainly didn't like E5s telling my junior people, get out as soon as you can. Because they do stuff like this. And they think that they have a right to because they're the U.S. military. You know, these organizations, these government agencies and stuff like that, they get it into their heads is like, you know, that like I solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, which no longer applies to me. You know, and I think that that's wrong. And I think that every single person who joins the military joins because they believe in the Constitution that they're swearing to uphold and defend. And then you treat somebody like this because they want a religious exemption because you're not going. I don't want to be force-fed your weird science experiments that you can't seem to get right. People still getting sick. People getting vaccinated left and right, still getting sick. A lot of people having problems who did get vaccinated. I'll put the little Wikipedia context thing down below because I even mentioned it. Sons of bitches. Just irritates me to no end. Republic. Bring back a republic. Anyway, let's go on this next story. I'm sure you heard about this. The Finnish Prime Minister, Sanna Marin, apologizes for photos of topless women making out at her summer home. A lot of people have been talking about this. So Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin expressed regret after a photo of two topless women kissing at her summer home was leaked on social media. Leaked on social media. You mean it was social media'd? That's what you do with social media. Anyway, the image shows two young women lifting their shirts as they kiss with a sign saying Finland covering their breasts. Marin is not seen in the image. The photo was reportedly taken in the bathroom of the Prime Minister's 1873 luxury villa. Quote, I think the picture is not appropriate and I apologize for it. Such a picture should not have been taken, Marin said of the incident, according to Finnish broadcaster YLE. Finnish media reported that she spoke with a broken voice and red eyes. She looks kind of sad, I guess. Oh, she's doing the prayer hands. Oh, God, Finland. Anyway, so, quote, we were using the sauna facilities in the garden area, but we did not spend time inside the Kesaranta house. Forgive me, I know I'm probably mispronouncing that. Although the downstairs guest toilets were in use, Marin said. So there are people in the bathroom at the time, and you felt that was relevant? That's what she said, according to the Associated Press. Clips of Marin, who is 36, who was partying with Finnish celebrities, exposed on social media following last week's leaks. Critics urged her to take a drug test following the incident, and she complied. She said she took a test on Friday. The results came back negative on Monday, just as a new video surfaced of her dancing with a man who was not her husband. And he goes real close, like nibbling on her ear and stuff like that. Supporters boast that Marin's frequent partying with celebrities brings youth and a sense of cool to the office, while detractors claim the public exposure and lack of professionalism is unbecoming for a world leader. Look, she's a good-looking woman. I get it. All right, you're young. You want to party. Fine. But don't bring the social media with you. You know, if you need to take your friends' phones, take your friends' phones. All right? That needs to be, you just got to look professional. You're in NATO now. You're in the big boy camp. All right? Time to act like a big boy. And that's it's kind of weird too, because like even in America, if like AOC like did something like this, it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez goes out and parties in the clubs and maybe makes out with some guy who isn't her husband, boyfriend on the dance club. I'm sure it happens, and I think it'd be unprofessional of her to do it, but I don't think it's a bad thing to have a good time. But I mean, I really don't understand is like, a bunch of junkies, a bunch of alcoholics up on Capitol Hill, like Nancy Pelosi, like rubbing her wrists on the stage and stuff like that, drunk as a skunk. We're all in glass houses here. You know what I'm saying? Quit throwing rocks. You might hit mine by accident. Holy cow. I like Malcolm Reynolds put it best. It's like, here we are on the raggedy edge. Don't push me, and I won't push you. Great line. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about my right click is not working. Let's talk a little bit about diplomatic immunity. UN diplomat dodges New York City rape charges thanks to immunity. So an accused rapist in New York City escaped charges because, as a United Nations foreign minister, he was protected by diplomatic immunity, authorities said. His case highlights a controversial policy that has made headlines for years. A woman accused Charles Dickens Imene Oliha, who was 46, of opening the door for her as she was entering her Washington Heights apartment, following her into the apartment and raping her twice before leaving, according to police and law enforcement sources. She reported the incident around noontime on Sunday, at which point officers took Oliha into custody. However, they soon learned that Oliha was working with the U.S. in the U.S. as a Minister of the Foreign Affairs of South Sudan and could not be charged because he had full diplomatic immunity. He was released hours later. Meanwhile, the victim was taken to the local hospital for treatment. Olia, whose social media accounts indicates that he's married with children, did not respond to Fox News Digital's request seeking comment on Tuesday. A spokesperson for the permanent mission of South Sudan did not respond to requests, and they won't. He is far from the first United Nations diplomat to escape criminal charges despite allegations of a crime, thanks to U.S. policy of protection afforded to those working in the Big Apple or elsewhere in the U.S. on behalf of their home countries. So this is awful. Terribly, terribly awful, obviously. I don't need to read any more of this awful story. The whole diplomatic immunity thing, I always thought was very weird. You know, we're talking about doing the bar exam and stuff like that. The whole premise about the diplomatic immunity thing is that if we have like people in our embassies in other nations and stuff like that, they have diplomatic immunity. That means they cannot be prosecuted by their legal system in the same way that they aren't processed by our legal system here. You know, and I think that that's wrong. I think that no matter what country you're from, in what country you live, I think that the law should apply to you. You know, especially when it comes to things like rape, murder, and stuff like that. You know, the big ones, you know, especially when it comes to that kind of stuff. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, Russia should go after people, you know, like going after people's tax returns in the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. You know what I'm saying? But if there's a U.S. Diplomat in Moscow who goes out and rapes or murders somebody, I would hope that the Moscow police would arrest him and put him in jail. Even if he is American. Even if he is the person we sent over there to be a diplomat. That's just me. That's just me. Maybe I'm weird that way. I don't want people who do bad things to be punished for it. I know it's weird in this day and age to even think about it. Anyway, let's get two more like lighter stories before we get on out of here. So I want to talk about this. Matt Walsh talked about it, I think, yesterday a little bit. And I wanted to talk about it too. So there's this new trend going around with modern workplaces called quiet quitting. So Fox has this article about like, let's see, with workplaces quiet quitting trend, managers must be proactive and attentive. Well, just between you and me, I think the bosses in every company have quietly quitted for a long time. Anyway, and that's why, you know, it's like, oh, we got to do our jobs now and like tell our people to work, or like maybe even come in to work and make sure that they're there working. Anyway, so this is the article. Quiet quitting is today's newly emerging workplace mindset. It describes employees who are doing the bare minimum of work by reducing their commitment, energy, and productivity on the job. The path these employees are taking is clear, but the response from manager, leader teams, their employer is also critical. All right, and because this is Fox, they talk about how a manager needs to like set these people straight. And yeah, you do need to set these people straight. So the idea of work, like, it's funny because it's like Matt Walsh said, it's like these people, they keep thinking they're inventing new things, but you're not. We're calling it quiet quitting. No, you're just lazy. You're lazy. You know, it's funny because people don't understand like work. They really don't understand work. It's like even in places where I thought we had a lot of productivity, even in workplaces where I said we are a bunch of hard charging individuals and we're getting shit done. There was even people there that I was like, you're just friggin' lazy. You're doing the bare minimum. You know, work has got to be something you want to do, that you want to accomplish. You know, that's why I'm not really a fan of like hourly wages, because people just want to, you know, pad the clock, as it were. You know, I worked at plenty of jobs, sitting on my ass, reading websites and stuff like that, reading Sean Baby all day long, just to pad the hours so it looks like I'm in my office. You know, it's like that movie Office Space where they're like, yeah, in a given day, I actually do maybe like 10 minutes of actual work. You know, and there's too much of that going on, as it is. And now people are like, want to quietly quit. Just quit. Find something you actually want to do that you could justify putting your energy into. And that's the point, is like people don't put their minds to what they're doing. They don't put their energy into what they're doing. It seems really simple for people in my generation, EK's generation. You know, growing up is like working is something you do. And if you're going to work, you got to do it right. You know, it's the same thing as when it comes to this show. You know, it's like, I want to do the show. I want to do it right. And so I'll write 2 pages of rants, crazy dreams I have or whatever like that, just an attempt to entertain you. And then I want to come in here and do the news, talk about the news, because the news is something that I care about. So I don't know what's wrong with you people. It's like, you think you're inventing a new way to be lazy? You're still just lazy jackasses. Do something, or do something about the fact that you don't care about that job. Take charge. Have some initiative. It seems like basics to me, but you know, some people have the hardest time getting it. Anyway, one more story and then we'll get out of here. Twin sisters help save woman from medical emergency on a flight from Boston to Fort Myers, Florida. Twins are weird, huh? Twins who were on a flight together from Boston to Fort Myers, Florida, recently helped save the life of a woman who was suffering a diabetic emergency aboard a plane and she was found unresponsive in the restroom. Oh my goodness. The dramatic scene played out in front of the other passengers, and the sisters, who were in their late 20s, didn't hesitate to assist a stranger in trouble. You know what happened is, like, everyone just sat there and watched them do it because everyone, like, was waking up out of a nap and they thought they were still dreaming. It's like, are there 2 of that chick? Does that girl have a clone? Is she like a nurse who can clone herself? Because that could be really useful, like superpower. She hangs around hospitals, just keep cloning herself. Man, that's a Heroes Unlimited character right there. Anyway, Nicole Kelly, a traveling nurse as well as a nurse at Leahy Hospital and Medical Center in Burlington, Massachusetts, and her sister, Lindsay Byrne, a firefighter and paramedic with Wayland, Massachusetts Fire Department, were both aboard the JetBlue aircraft on Monday, August 1st, when the flight attendant requested help from anyone on board who had a medical background. The sisters had heard the request announced over the plane's intercom. Kelly told Fox Digital, "I had just woken up from a nap and heard that there was a medical team has been activated. And about a minute later, the flight attendant asked if there are any and all medical personnel available to help. 2 sisters did not have seats next to each other. But Nicole, so imagine being sitting there and see these 2 girls stand up at the same time and turn around. You're like, oh my God. There's 2 of them on this flight, and they're not sitting together. maybe what's his name? Was it Pierce Anthony? Pierce Anthony was right. There's only like 127 different types of people. It's going to be overlap. Anyway. Kelly added, when we had her out, we heard a faint beeping, and that's when we noticed there was a blood sugar monitor. We knew she had that it was her blood sugar and if it was diabetic emergency. So they had to improvise. We found out what was going on. We got some sugar packets that put the sugar under her tongue until it helped her regain consciousness. Kelly noted that the woman awoke. She was confused and too weak to sit in the seat. So the pair stayed with her, never leaving her side for the rest of the flight. And that lasted for about 45 minutes until the plane landed. Well, I mean, were they both like aisle seats before? Want them to get the window instead? And anyway, I'm curious about that. I was like, well, it's kind of an upgrade. I'll get more foot room. The plane actually landed while kneeling in the aisle with her right behind the cockpit. Kelly told Fox News Digital. So maybe they were first class. Anyway. So then as soon as we landed, a team of medical staff was waiting for her. And as far as we know, she was traveling alone. Kelly said that the medical staff took the woman away to treat her while we explained to the paramedic what had happened. Her twin sister, Lindsay Byrne, shared her perspective with Fox News Digital as well. Quote, when we heard they needed help, there wasn't much to think about. For me, as a firefighter and paramedic, tones go off several times throughout the day. And I don't always know what the call is. Yeah, for people like that, you know, it's constantly, what now? Yeah, let's go figure out what this is all about. It happens all the time. It's like they're on their way. They're not even thinking that much about it. All right, let's figure out what's going on here. She added, you try to figure out what you're dealing with when you get there. When they said medical emergency, they didn't say what was going on until we got up there. Now, she's very smart, apparently. The attendant just said, Byrne noted, that the woman was unresponsive and didn't know what to do. She couldn't feel for her pulse. Said she wasn't breathing. It's my instinct to get up and go. I'm just so used to getting up and going when I hear tones. Just a reflex. I've been working shifts in the ER. I've seen a little bit of everything. She noted that people sitting next to me on the planes told me they'd never seen people move so quickly. I didn't think twice. I just think somebody needed help, and I need to go. Your brain kicks in, and you just naturally go do it. Got some pictures of them. Yeah. Awesome. It's the active participation of good people in this world that makes the world a better place. I know I make fun of these. Twins are weird. Stuff like that. I know I make fun. But, they're good people. They're good people. And they're doing good things with their life. I think, they're in their 20s. They should be getting married right around now. Having a family. But until then, I hope they continue doing good things for the rest of their life, no matter what they choose to do. And I hope that's what you choose to do with the rest of your life. Take an active part in helping your fellow human. What are they called? Humans? Humans. Anyway, this is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron. I would appreciate that very much. I also have a Cash App if you want to send me money that way. # shockmonkeyradio, all one word. Follow me on social media at DenaltSaw on Twitter, at Shockmonkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I would appreciate that. You can also buy my books. Find them for digital download on Amazon. Holy cow. Halfway out the door already. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins, 2 T's or 2 B's, or check the description below. I'd appreciate that. So, we'll be back here regular time next week. And this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.